Hey everyone, this is Yvette Hampton. Welcome back to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast. I am here with my amazing co-host, Abinella. Hi, Abby.
Hello, how is everybody? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good,
I'm
good.
super good because we are here with one of our very favorite guests of all time, Rachael Carman. Rachael with an AEL.
It's
That's an
true.
acronym.
It's true.
And
Hi,
Carmen
Rachael.
with an AN.
I know I'm a 4A person, so that's how it goes. So yeah,
I love that.
Well, welcome to the podcast, Rachael. Welcome back. We are
thank you.
thrilled to have you back and very excited to have you on talking about 7 simple steps to sanity. And
Yeah.
I can't think of a better topic to discuss right
I know,
now
right? I
during
know.
just this crazy time of life than sanity, because we all need a little bit of sanity. I don't know.
We all need a lot of sanity.
We all need a
Yes,
lot of
yes.
sanity.
And it feels like there's not very much sanity all around us. I
It
also
is
think
so true.
in the time where so many people right now are considering homeschool that have never considered it before, one of the biggest things I keep hearing is, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my mind. Like
Yeah.
the academics don't worry me. This doesn't worry me. That doesn't worry me. But I just feel like I'm going to go insane, So I think
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is a perfect topic for that as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and even if you don't think you might go insane, everybody in your life is confident that you already have. I mean, you're just considering it, right? Your mother and your neighbors and your friends and everyone is trying to talk you out of it. I mean, that was my experience, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I
Totally.
remember, I will not name who said this to me, but they were like, Rachael, like trying to get my attention. Rachael, how is it possible for you to do what it takes an entire building of professionals to achieve?
Yeah. Right.
And they were like looking at me like, focus,
Oh.
you're losing your mind. You do kind of feel that way. And it's truly a topic that resonates, right? Because the first time I gave this presentation, so we've been homeschooling for 25 years. Crazy. And I didn't want to do this, which we've talked about that in the past, so we won't go back into that story, but I didn't want to do this. I got into this kicking and screaming. I mean, it is a testimony to the goodness of God and his grace and his mercy new every day that we've done this. 7 kids, 5 high school graduates, 4 college graduates. So, I mean, we've got a dog in this fight, right? We really believe in this. So the first time I gave this presentation was about 19 years ago this month, because my daughter, who just graduated from college, was an infant.
Oh,
wow.
And I was getting to speak at our state conference for the first time. And I kind of pitched this title because I had felt like I was losing my mind, right? I thought I was going crazy. And then God in his goodness had revealed these things we're going to talk about to me and taught me so much. And I really do believe not only do we need each other, but we need to teach it forward, right? We've got to share. That's what our fellowship is really supposed to be about. Okay. So it's not supposed to be about us or stuff or doing things. It's really supposed to be about us coming together and go, I've got to tell you what God did this week.
Yeah.
I've got to share with you what he showed me in his word. I've got to tell you how he blessed me this week. I've got to tell you how he's growing me. That's what we're supposed to be doing. We don't do that very often, but feeling convicted that, oh my goodness, God has taught me so much. And I'm only at that time 5 years in. I thought I've got to share this with people because I felt like I was losing my mind when I first started.
Yeah.
So they actually allowed me to speak, which is retrospectively hilarious, right? Because I'd only been doing this for 5 years. And I literally nursed my infant daughter and handed her off to my husband and walked into this room. This room sat 500 people. And there was standing room only.
Wow. So
And
it struck
I
a
walked
chord.
in and I was like, oh my, I was like thinking a few people would show up. Oh my goodness. And there's moms like right at my feet with their poised to take notes. And I was like, sweet Jesus, I need to say something. I mean, they came hoping I was going to say, and I just remember going, okay, like we're going to pray. And I was like, okay, Lord, please come in this moment and encourage these moms. Because I started to doubt, what if this isn't going to be helpful?
Yeah.
But that I've given this presentation now for 19 years. And every time I do it, it still strikes a chord. Because I do think we get a lot of criticism. It does sound crazy, although it's not crazy. I mean, you think about God of the universe gave us these kids. Of course, we would stay with them.
Right.
Of course, we would disciple them. Of course. But our culture has shifted so significantly that it seems nutty that we would be with our kids. So yeah, this is an effort to interject some sanity in what might seem like an insane decision.
Yeah, well, it does seem like an insane decision to a lot of people, but I think more and more as we're seeing a huge culture shift with with all that has happened, and now all of these parents who have had their children home with them, it has been so amazing. There have been so many difficult things that have come out of this shutdown and, all that's happened. But one of the things that we have seen as a huge blessing is that parents, many of them for the first time, have said, oh, having my kids home with me is different than what I thought it would be. And so there's hope, and it's so very exciting to see these parents just going, I can actually do that, because those like us who thought homeschooling was insane before we did it. And we thought, as a matter of fact, it's so funny. One of my very favorite lines in the Schoolhouse Rocked trailer, if you see it, and as Garrett's pulling the movie together right now, it's so fun to just see it all happening, is Heidi St. John says, what sane woman would want to stay home with her kids all day when a school bus will come and take them away and give you like a 9-hour break every day?
Right.
I mean, really? And that's, I used to think that. I used to think, why would I want to be home with my kids all day, every day?
Yeah.
And then I had them, and then I fell in love with them. And then I was like, oh,
right.
So that's
and then
why
it
I actually
shifts
like
and
them.
you start to, especially with what's happening now, if you zoom out a little and you start thinking of it from God's angle, it feels more insane to send them out into a place so foreign, teaching completely contrary to God's word. And right now that are going to mask them and all the things they're going to do. And now you start to look at it and go, I'm seeing more people anyway, flip flop and say that feels insane. Why would I send these precious little, these precious little kids who are so, influenced out into that world? So there's definitely a shift happening.
Yes.
So we're feeling, I feel like people are looking at me like I'm maybe a little bit more sane, not fully, but maybe.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, look at the three of us, we look relatively sane, I don't know what I thought homeschool mothers look like.
Yeah.
But they didn't look like any of us. Right. I remember I went to my first conference and I was like, oh, these people look like normal.
Totally.
And I actually said it out loud, and my husband was like, so you were expecting and I don't know what I was expecting, but we really are moms just like you.
Yeah.
Right. Totally.
And we're imperfect, and yet we're pressing forward, and doing that together is the best case scenario.
Right. And our kids are just like yours. It's not like we have these perfect kids so we can stay home with them. Believe me, come spend a day in my house. They're not perfect. And neither am I.
Right. And they'd love to tell you that, right?
In fact, they will get on here and tell you.
They will. Yes.
Yes. Though, it's exciting to see that so many now are looking at homeschooling going, okay, well, I could maybe do this. And at the same time, it's terrifying for those who are new to it, those who are just now considering it. And it's a little terrifying to those of us who have been doing it for quite some time still. We're going into our 10th year of homeschooling, but we're going into a new season. My oldest is going into high school this year. And I'm like, this is scary. Like, this is real now. I mean, not that it wasn't real before, but we're talking about more serious, record keeping and, and I mean, it's a little bit different of a ball game that we're playing now. And so, it can rattle us and shake us a little bit. So Rachael, I would love for you to just kind of, let's run with this. And you've got 7 simple steps. So I'm assuming you have kind of 7 different points that you'll walk us through. And,
Do you know how comforting that is? 7 simple steps to sanity.
Right.
It's
and
like
7
the
is
most
God's favorite number. We all know
so
that.
comforting. See, I thought sanity would be like 1,000 really difficult things to be sane.
Well, it is funny because I wish I could give everyone who's with this or watches this. I have a little presentation card that goes with this, and I was sharing it. I have a team of women that prays for me in my ministry and when I go speak, and I was giving them my presentation card on this the other day, and one of them said, "You got this titled wrong." And I said, "Oh no, I just printed 1,000." And she said, "It should be 7 seemingly simple steps to sanity." She said, because they all sound simple, right? And I mean, like, just to back up, I feel like the gospel message is simple, right? We're all sinners. We need a savior, and God provided for that savior in the person of Jesus Christ. Right. It's a simple message. There's a simple invitation. All who believe on him will be saved. It's simple, right?
Right.
And it's hard at the same time. So I just want to say at the outset, I know it's easy to say these are simple, but I also know that these are all progressive. It's a process, right? It is not flipping a switch. There's no pixie dust. There's no instant fix. But these are simple in that they're not complicated, but they are challenging. And so that's what I just want, my little caveat to the word simple.
Well, thank you. 7
the first
seemingly.
One is, seemingly simple. So the first thing is it's all about perspective. The first thing we've got to do if we want to find sanity in this insane decision is we must seek God. We must seek God. And Matthew 6:33 says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God." So first means before curriculum. Before figuring out your schedule or your routine for the day, before you panic, or maybe when you panic, seek God. We must do that first. And with all of these families who are really thinking about stepping out and taking this first step on what we refer to as the adventure of a lifetime, homeschooling, seeking God is key, because you need to have a focal point. And I would humbly but boldly suggest that the focal point as you step out is God's glory and honor. God, I believe, is always in the process of doing 2 things. Always. And you can count on these 2 things. You can see it from Genesis to Revelation in his story. Over and over, God is doing 2 things: glorifying himself and growing us all the time. And so if we purpose, if we determine, if we resolve to seek him first in all things, especially as we step out by faith to do this homeschool adventure, he will direct our path. Look, when I first started, and I'm betting that this was true for both of you because it's very common, I thought I had to figure it all out. I felt like there was like this secret code I had to crack, and I had to figure it all out, and then it would be good. Let me just put you all at ease. And I'm going to say something that will simultaneously liberate and terrify. So just hang with me. This really isn't about figuring it all out. I'm 25 years in, and that is the most profound thing I figured out, is that it's not about figuring it out. It's really about continually, persistently seeking God, seeking to honor him, seeking to follow him, seeking to point your children to him, seeking their relationship with, pointing them to him. You know, they're going to have questions, they're going to have concerns, and they're going to be things that you don't know. And you can say, "I don't know. Let's seek God." You know, I have one son right now that he's just in the throes of, what is he going to do forever and ever? That high senior thing. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? And I just keep saying, you know what? I know that God has a plan. And we're right now, instead of revealing it to us, he's inviting us to just trust him. And if I've said that once, I bet I've said it 1,000 times. And it seems like he's not getting it, but he is getting it. Because saying it over and over blesses me, it calms me, right? And it shows him I'm not his answer.
Right.
There's not an institution that's his answer. God's his answer. And talking to him and pointing him. So as I see God, my kids see me seek God, right? And then when they're in those moments, they can say, I don't know what to do, Mom, but I'm going to pray about it and see what God does. I'm like, yay, because God's going to do it. So seeking God is our first step to sanity.
Yeah, I love that. You hear the term monkey see, monkey do, and our kids, they copy what we do. Yeah. And so if we're freaking out about life and the simple things of life, like, not that homeschooling is simple, but if we're constantly freaking out about all the decisions that need to be made, what curriculum we're going to use and how we're going to teach this, and are we going to do a co-op, or are we going to do, there are so many decisions that need to be made on a daily basis, even, what's for dinner tonight. But, if they see us always going to the Lord, seek first the kingdom of God, they will learn to just naturally do that themselves, because that's how they grow up, and that's what they know to do. Right. So what a blessing.
And yet I want to say to the mom out there that's panicked, okay, this is really good news. God's big enough for your panic.
Yeah.
So you don't have to get it all together and act like you're not panicked when you are. I'm sure, Yvette and Abby, I'm sure that you too have panicked, right? I mean,
absolutely.
You've had curriculum that you thought was just amazing and you failed on day one, right? Or you thought you were going to do this and it didn't work out, or you got halfway through the year and you realized that nobody remembered what you have been doing. I mean, we've all had, and you're just like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do?
Right.
Your God is big enough for that. Yes. He is big enough for your doubt. He's big enough for your frustration. And that's what I love about God's word is if you study, especially the Psalm of David. I mean, David is like, so how long, right? I mean, you can sense how frustrated and exhausted and tired David is. God is big enough for that.
Yeah.
The point is that we take it to him. We don't run to something else or someone else. Yeah. But that we take it to him.
Yeah. Yeah. When everything was happening, the onset of all this insanity that's happening around us, my 6-year-old said, she was 5 at the time, and because she turned 6 or 8 during the whole thing, and she said, it was so sweet. We were sitting there one night and we were just kind of talking about the way the world was responding. And she said, Mommy, why is everybody panicking? It's not like God's getting littler. And it was so profound. It's like, God isn't getting littler. Why are we all panicking? He's still God. He's still big enough. And that was a really big thing with everything that's going on. But I think, why do I panic in the little things, like the tiny little things with homeschool? It's not like God's getting littler, she said. And I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's real wisdom from a little girl. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So as we're seeking God, the second step, and I really do think these interplay with each other, they don't really build on each other. It's really how they work together. The second thing is serving others. Mm-hmm. So in this culture that's telling us, especially as women and as moms, we've got to take care of us, right? That is not how God lays it out. True joy, according to God and his word, and the many examples we have in scripture, comes from serving others, thinking of others, Paul writes, better than yourself, considering the needs of others. Elizabeth George wrote in one of her books, which title I forget, and I apologize. She did a book on being a good wife, and she talks about in that book about asking your husband, what can I do to serve you today? And it's so easy for us as wives to get in the habit, and we've got, we have these honey-do lists, all these things we want our husband to do. What if we really took, and I get that this is culturally controversial, but what if we reclaimed what we were made to do and actually sought to serve him?
Yeah.
What if we actually said, what can I do to serve you today? And what if we did that for our kids? Look, I've got 4 adult children in my house, 2 sons that are in high school, so 16 and 18. But then I had 2 daughters who transitioned home during COVID. So we went from 4 of us to 6 of us, and 2 daughters who were very used to being self-directed and on their own and coming and going and having their own thing. And so transitioning them home with all of the emotion and everything, it became really important that me being sensitive to them. And I got into the habit of very early on when they were home and they were getting, they had to have their desk upstairs so they could do everything online. It was crazy. And I would go in as they were settling in the morning. Is there anything that I can do for you this morning? Anything I can get for you today? Would you like a cup of tea? Can I rotate your laundry for you? It's not usually some mountain moving thing that makes all the difference in serving someone.
Right.
Sometimes it's as simple as a cup of tea. Sometimes it's as simple as folding a load of laundry or making a favorite meal. But really getting into the habit of serving others. I think we're in a culture that is nurturing narcissism, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And it's all about me. And I want everyone to pay attention to me.
Yep.
And that, what it's producing? A lot of lonely, unhappy people.
That's right.
And
do what makes you happy.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
But when we consider the happiness of someone else, our joy could not be more full when we're seeking to serve someone else. And I'll tell you this, and again, this doesn't come with a guarantee, but what I found and what my experience has been as a mom is that's the kind of service that becomes contagious in your home. I have found, just without exception, that my kids will end up saying, Mom, is there something I can do for you? Not all the time. And some of them are more predisposed to that than others. We can just agree on that, right? Some just come wired that way. Yeah. But it is really remarkable how, even tonight, so tonight we sort of rushed through dinner. Davis was gone all day and the boys had something, and my one daughter's still at work at Chick-fil-A and my other daughter's working this morning. So we're trying to have dinner together, right? And so I was rushing in to get my, one more thing, I wanted to get some notes before I came in. And my one son said to me, he goes, Mom, keep breathing. It's going to be fine. You're going to do it. And I was just like, see, that kind of sensitivity comes out of serving each other.
Yes.
That kind of awareness comes out of serving each other.
Right.
And yes, you can. I have found that at my lowest, most exhausted, most tired, feeling the most empty, when I can choose to think and do for somebody else, it changes everything.
Absolutely.
It changes.
Yeah. And I
the
think
paramount. Go ahead.
Because this is about sanity. And I think when I find myself getting really, really stressed or feeling that insane feeling, it's because my eyes are all on me. It's because I'm thinking about me and what works for me and my agenda and my plan and my me, my. And I think when we serve others, there's so much less room for even getting stressed or panicked or losing our sanity, because you get your eyes off of you and onto others and onto the Lord, and it just naturally goes away.
True. It's true. And, in this adventure called homeschooling, one of the unique opportunities we have is serving our children as individuals, something that the system and the institution cannot do.
Absolutely.
We have an opportunity to look at each child individually and consider what their unique wiring is by a holy God, what their unique talents are, their interests are. So we have an opportunity to serve them. Whereas it might be easy to do one curriculum for everyone, this child might need to do something different or attend to something different or approach it different. And if we just have that service mindset, it really helps to stop frustration.
Yeah, I love
Absolutely.
it. And though, I do want to say on that point too, we also have to know when to say no and saying yes to our family first. Because I think sometimes, some people are, if their love language is acts of service, they always want to say yes to everybody and everything. Sure. And so, they're serving in the church nursery or they're leading, ministries here and there, leading co-ops here and there. Like they're trying to do everything because they want to serve others. They have the heart for that. But that sometimes when it comes especially to sanity and homeschooling and being home with our kids, that can sometimes kind of backfire a little bit and get you to the point where you're completely overwhelmed because you're saying yes to everyone else and not saying no to the most, or not saying yes to the most important things, which are your children and your husband, and being able to serve them. And there's always room for serving in other areas. But how have you found, Rachael, to find that balance between serving others and still keeping your family the priority?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it actually dovetails perfectly into the third one. And that is about staying focused, right? We must stay focused. Look, I don't believe the enemy is really too worried about getting any of us to commit some heinous sin, right? Like murder or adultery. I don't think he even bothers with that. He's completely content to just distract us off what really matters. I think, if he can get us to sin, hey, that's awesome. But I think what we are more likely to be in trouble with these days, and what really can bring down our mindset and our focus and our joy and our sanity, is we lose focus on what really matters. And so I think the enemy is working overtime to keep us distracted. I overheard a mom the other day saying that she was she missed her social media because the kids were home and she was having to attend to their studies. Look, if your social media is more interesting than your kids, we need to say a prayer. I mean, really, the enemy is having a heyday with how easily we have become as mothers being distracted with what doesn't matter.
Right.
And we've all witnessed it, right? I was in the store the other day. I think it was in Target. So many great illustrations happen at Target. Just saying. And this mom was there, and she was on her phone simultaneously pushing a cart, and her 5-year-old child was on a phone. And neither was having face-to-face. And this kid kept trying to say things to mom to get their attention. And the mom was just, I knew more about what the kid was saying than the mom. Look, our kids ought not have to fight for our attention. And it's easier, I believe, for us to focus on our kids when we are focused on the glory of God.
Absolutely.
Because I believe as we focus on glorifying God, and his word says in word and deed. So not just we want to say, I honor God, but actually that we live in a way that honors God. And so when we can stay focused on what really matters, that is actually one of the ways that we know how to say no to things.
Right.
Because we know that, primarily I need to make sure that I have time for my relationship with God, because everyone in my life knows when I'm not having time with him. I might be able to fool me, but I'm not fooling anybody else, right? I'm not loving my husband. I'm not listening to those around me. I'm not available to my children. When I'm not having time with God, it's evident in the way that I'm living. That's how it works. So primarily focused on God, focused on taking time and being available for my husband, for conversation, for intimacy, and being available, being present with my children. It is so important to me that we practice being present.
Right.
One of the ways we do this, this is not something you've all heard of this before, and that is no devices at the table. We're present. We're not distracted by a buzz or an alarm or a call. This is dinner time. And so we want to be able to have that focus time. I think it's so important for your kids to be able to know when they've got you. I get that there are times, and obviously we're participating in them one now. Our objective for this time together tonight is to be able to encourage moms, and they would need to be online to participate in that. That's well and good, but not all the time, right? So I found when we homeschooled, so old days, right, when there was a little corded phone or a cordless phone, right? And we literally would put it on hold until 2. My kids knew they had me. Until 2. It wasn't a question if there wasn't a phone to ring, right?
Right.
And so I think it's important that our kids know that we're focused on God and his glory, and that we're focused on our marriage, and that we're focused on them when we're with them. And then that means that we do say no. And there's 2 things under being focused. And that's number 1, setting limits like no devices at the table, setting limits. And what we're going to do. One of the other things that we had to do early on was limit how many nights a week we were out. We decided that we were not going to be just another family that had something every night of the week. Well, we were going to do Awana, whatever night that was, and then kids could choose one sport. Look, there's enough for all of us to never be home, right? You can join a ton. But it has been my experience that you get the most important things done when you are at home for a long period of time. We'll talk about that more in just a minute. It means we have to set limits. And the second thing is what you were just talking about, Yvette. That is, we have to be able to say no.
Right.
I have really good news again. We're not Superwoman. We're in a culture that wants us to aspire to that. We're a culture that really, really worships busy. I came across a definition of busy that really struck me and really convicted me. It's the continual, persistent pursuit to achieve that which cannot be achieved.
Wow.
In other words, it's literally, in the words of Solomon, a chasing after the wind. Mm-hmm. It's really chasing after your tail. You can't catch the wind and you can't catch your tail. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think I've done a study in scripture. We are to be in pursuit of God. Paul talks about pressing forward. He talks about running the race, but nowhere do I see that we are called to continually pursue finishing and doing things that we cannot. And so I think that that's when it comes to saying no, we can't do everything. As you get into homeschooling, sometimes you just feel like, there's so many good things. I want to do it all. Yeah. And just, it's better to do fewer things really well than to try to do everything halfway.
Yeah. Right. I think too, some of the distractions, and like we say, okay, the woman was on her phone and that was such a distraction, but sometimes the distractions are really, really good things. And so we don't pay attention to them. Like, I'm so busy doing ministry at church, I don't have time for the kids, or I'm so busy, planning. So I'm lesson planning. I've got to get this done for the good of the family. So they're not always bad things. And another thing about really being able to focus, I love what you're saying about focus, is it helps us also be in tune with our kids. We just today, we've been with one of our kids. All of a sudden I've seen a shift in their behavior in the last 3 weeks. It's just, there's just all of a sudden there's been a shift in we needed some character training. And I was like, what is it? But I realized we have been filling, because it's summer, we've been filling our schedule with good things. They've been good things. Sure. We've been with friends. We've been because you say we're focused, we're with our kids, we're home with our kids, we're focused on our children. I noticed that subtle shift. And I realized we needed to pull back from good things, from, all the good things that we had. But because we are with our kids every day, all day, we can focus on them in a way that I might have missed that had he been gone every day, all day. So it allows us to also be really in tune with our kids and what they're struggling with and what we can do to help them through that. And ultimately, not just for my sanity, but for my kids' sanity as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really good to remember the distractions can be seemingly positive things. And like for me as a speaker, it's really easy when I get all these calls to go and speak somewhere to just completely fill my calendar.
Right.
Look, I still have kids at home and I'm not going to be gone every weekend because I don't think that honors God for me to neglect the primary mission field that God has given me here at home.
Right.
And so sometimes I say more no's than I say yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm convicted that I need to be here. And it's a season, right? I don't know what the future holds. I've already got grandkids and I'm here to tell you, I'm going to spend time with my grandkids. So my no's will probably continue. But the good news is he's not depending on me to be everywhere.
Right.
So just because a call comes, would you come and speak? Would you come and minister at church? Would you come and do such and such? God, that doesn't mean that it's the voice of God.
Right.
We need to discern and know what is really needed at a home and in our marriages and prioritize those things first. And as women, we need to give each other permission to say no.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think
one of the best things I think we can do too is talk with our husbands about it and ask him. I know, when I go to Garrett and I say, what do you think about this schedule that we're looking at, or this, whether it's curriculum schedule, whatever, or we want to go do this thing. What do you think about that? And oftentimes he'll see things differently than I see them. And he'll say, it's probably not going to work out for you to do that because X, Y, Z. And I'm like, oh yeah. And sometimes I disagree, but, I do my very best to be respectful to him as the leader of our home. Totally but, I really do respect his opinion. And sometimes he'll just say, you know what? It doesn't make any difference to me whatsoever, whatever you think is best for our family. But I do think it's wise to go to our husbands and ask them, especially if it's something that we're struggling with a decision that we're not sure that's going to affect our whole family.
Yeah,
exactly.
They tend to have a different perspective because they're just not right there all day doing it. So they can kind of see the bigger. And it was my husband that was like, because I couldn't figure out, I'm like, what is going on? And he's like, have you noticed that you guys have been gone doing good things, but you have been gone every single day and everything's falling apart.
Well, and you two are amazing at this because that leads completely to the next point. Of this
good.
It's like we had it in.
You are amazing. And the next step is quite, I found controversial. So it seems like in every one of the presentations that I make, there's one point that seems to be like, and this is that one. So that's just, my preview. I really think one of the keys to sanity, as a wife and a mother and a homeschool mom, we need to stay home. Mm-hmm. This is called homeschool. It's not called van school. It's not called drive around like a crazy woman school. It's not called extracurricular activity school. It's called homeschool. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever had Deb Bell on. She's another person that I would recommend. She did her doctoral dissertation on the perfect context for learning. And the punchline is the perfect context for learning is a home. Because it's safe and it's filled with love and it nurtures learning. It nurtures a joy of learning. And I have found in 25 years that we have gotten the most important things done. And you mentioned it a minute ago, Allie, character issues done, sibling relationships solidified, respect for parents, time in God's word. We get those things done when we spend long periods of time at home. Yeah. And I get it. I mean, I am talking about the really hard work of really sitting still. Look, when we started this, my number one fear, I did not want to be home. I had a mentor early on, and I had a mantra early on, and I did not want to be at my house, right? I had this little baby and I wanted to be on the go. I wanted to be in every Bible study possible. I'll be home long enough to put on dinner and rotate laundry and fold a load. And then I'm gone. I didn't know how to do it. Mm-hmm. I had become obsessed with rushing around and being busy. And, there's a lot of things you don't have to deal with. Yeah. When you do that. And that's how I was living my life. There were things that I retrospectively, certainly, but even in the moment, I knew there were some issues in my own heart that God wanted to deal with. And I was just determined not to sit still long enough for him to actually put his finger on it. Right. So my way was just diversion, right? I'm just going to go. And a lot of the things that I was doing were good, but they were not profitable. Mm-hmm. And I really think as a homeschool mom, when we can really set a context at home of stillness, of peacefulness, of nurturing, we can nurture curiosity and joy and engagement and questions and ideas. We do that when we're actually at home. Yeah. And, there's nothing like every morning. And so my kids are a little older, so I wouldn't have done this when I had littles, but my kids are old enough now that every morning I light a candle. There's something about lighting a candle that sets a tone in your home. Mm-hmm. There's something about having the tea kettle on. There's something about classical, non-lyrical music in the background. You can set a tone in your house and set a context, but the reality is, Mom, it starts with you. Mm-hmm. And if this is not your habit, I'm talking about a dramatic downshift. I'm talking about leaning in to what Jesus himself invited us to, come unto me, all that ye who are weary and heavy laden. All you who think you're going crazy or who are overwhelmed. I mean, that's a big blank, right? Yeah, right. You can fill in all you who are just exhausted and just whatever you would fill in. Come to me. Come unto me. Mm-hmm. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. In other words, come, I'll take it. But what he's inviting us to is to rest in him. And what do we do tonight when we all lay down? What is required for us to actually rest? We get still. Yeah. and stillness happens in the home. Mm-hmm. And I really think that this is a gift that we can give to our children. And I will admit, I'm a first generation be still, right? So I was raised in a rush. I'm not saying this is something that I had. This is something that I've had to cultivate in my heart. But I think for sanity, leaning in to the joys of being at home, which, including your kids and household chores. I think the number one recipe, we've been doing fun facts of COVID, at home at the dinner table. Everybody brings the fun facts. So the fun fact one night was, what's the number one recipe that's been Googled during COVID? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Banana bread.
Really?
So comforting.
So it seems like, and then the other breads were in there, like French bread and sandwich bread. So apparently some people have dared to lean in. Let's dare to lean in when COVID is a thing of the past, when we're not wearing masks. Let's dare to lean in and need bread. Right. Let's dare to lean in and go on a nature walk. Let's dare to lean in and teach our kids how to fold the laundry. Let's dare to deal with our own heart, to deal with our kids' heart. Because, we can correct behavior on the fly. You can do that in the van. You can do that at the soccer field. But if you're really going to deal with the heart issue, which is what the action is springing from, you need to be at home to do that.
You do.
So,
well, and when you're just shuffling kids from one place to another, you lose so many opportunities to get to know your kids, to really, like you said, lean into knowing your kids, to seeing what's going on in their hearts. And I tell you, there's never, when you're all sitting around folding laundry, the conversations that come, the depth of learning who your kids are, that doesn't happen when you're just shuffling from one thing to the next to the next. And I mean, home, I'm a little bit like you. I love home, and it's so hard to get me out. And that's why this summer I was like, all right, we're going to do all the things. And we crashed and burned,
Sure.
And I'm like, you know what? It's not what it's cracked up to be, is doing all the things. Home is where there is rest, where we can get to know each other, where we can press into the Lord together, and where we can kind of regroup and find that peace. So you can't be a keeper of the home if you're not home.
I know. And you know what? And let me tell you too, as someone who has graduated and launched 5 kids, you have an opportunity now to create a place that your kids want to come back to. It didn't happen accidentally. It happens intentionally. You want to create a place that your kids can't wait not only to come home themselves, but they want to bring their friends. So you're doing that now. So you're doing something, right? Either intentionally or accidentally, you're doing something. And I just dare you, create a place that your kids can't wait to come back to after they're launched into the world.
So good. That is so good, Rachel. And you talk a lot about that, how your kids bring home kids from, I remember last time we talked, they were all bringing home people from school, and you made a place that they wanted to bring their friends. That is so good. That is something we should aspire to do.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I really do. I really am grateful for that. Now, here's a great one. And for me, it's really easy. But one of the things that I've learned about this one is it's really hard for some people. The next step, I don't know what number we're on. So you might know.
On 6.
Okay, on 6. Okay, so the 6th of the 7 simple steps to sanity. Start laughing. Start laughing. Again, this is something that on the one hand comes really naturally to me. I love to laugh, but I can also tell you that the control freak in me, some things are not funny. I don't want to laugh in the moment because I'm trying to do something and my kids are laughing and I just need to laugh. Right.
Right.
So this is one of the stories that I tell, so I have to tell it today. So one day I was really being intense and I was standing on my knees in front of my probably 3 and 5-year-old son. We were doing Bible story time. And I was talking to them about King David and how amazing it was that he killed a lion with his bare hands. And I said, isn't that amazing? Can you imagine how brave and courageous he must have been to kill a lion with his bare hands? And my oldest son, he looked at his hands and he goes, but I don't have bare hands. And I was like, okay, that's hilarious.
It is hilarious.
He's thinking King David had bare hands.
Bare hands. Right.
And I just started laughing and I was like, oh, that is so hilarious. That is so funny. And in that moment, right, I grew our relationship and we were able to build in, and I didn't go, oh, good grief. That's not what that, I could have done that. Sure. And the control freak in me wants to do that, but it's a funny moment. So starting to laugh, your kids need to see you laugh, Mom. They need to see you smile. I often ask when I'm on this point, the moms in the audience to give me their mean mom look. And, it's kind of frightening in front of all of these moms giving their mean mom look. Look, here's the deal. Your kids know your mean mom look. Mm-hmm. And there's a time for that. But I'm going to tell you, your kids need to know your smile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And my experience has been so often my smile and wink can bring upon them more conviction than my mean mom look.
Yes.
If I just look at them and just smile, I'm so proud of you, wink, give them a thumbs up. I'm just shocked how sometimes they'll come and go, I'm so sorry I didn't. And I'm just like, whoa, I just, but just because what are we saying? We're saying, I love you. Mm-hmm. I think you're amazing. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so glad God sent you to our home just with a smile. Yeah. And otherwise, our mean mom look is we're just constantly judging them. We're just looking for them to mess up. Let's smile. Our kids need, and again, as someone who's launched 5, I want my kids to hear the echo of my laugh when they're alone in an apartment, when they're alone in a dorm room, when they've had a really lousy day. I want them to hear the echo of my laugh. Yeah. They're going to see our mean mom look, but let's laugh. It's like a safety valve, right? Where you're in the middle of something and you need to be able to laugh about something. Yeah. You're going to cry. That's just life. But laughing to me seems like something we need to more intentionally allow ourselves to do.
I love that.
Yeah. I love that you talk about smiling. It's so interesting because at least I do this, and Abby, you and I have talked a lot about this. I'm a very visual person. So I always visualize people in my head. And I visualize them differently. The people in my life who are happy and joyful, I picture them smiling. And the people in my life who are not so much, I don't necessarily picture them angry. Now, there are some people in my life who are always angry and on edge and confrontational. And those people I always picture in my mind as just kind of an angry person. But I want to be that person, who people just see when they think of me as a joyful person, as a happy person, and especially my girls. I want my girls to think of me that way and to remember me that way. I have a grandmother who was very unkind. She was a very mean woman. And that, like, everyone's view in our family of her, when we think of her, is that. I mean, she was mean. And I mean, I don't ever remember her smiling or laughing unless she was laughing at someone at their expense. And it's true. And it's a great experiment to do when you go out in public and you look at people, and people will sometimes just be downcast and you smile at them. They will almost always smile back. Like smiling just does something.
And we feel it right now when everybody's covered up.
Right.
And you can't, it's like there is a heaviness when you cannot see people smile.
Yes.
I mean, it's deeper than just us, because you're feeling it out there when we don't see smiles. And children, especially children, they are so responsive. And my littlest, tiniest one, my 5-year-old, you can tell how uncomfortable she is when she says something to someone that is covered and she can't tell if they're smiling. She's looking for that affirmation through a smile. And it's shown how important it is to smile at someone.
Right.
It really, really is. And it says in Nehemiah 8:10, the joy of the Lord is our strength.
Yeah. That's right.
And our smile is an outplay of what's in our heart. If we have the joy of the Lord, and what's the joy of the Lord? The knowledge that he has paid a sin penalty that we could not pay, and mercy has forgiven us, and in grace has promised us a heavenly home. That is reason to smile. And that is reason to smile to strangers. I remember a couple of years ago, we got to go to the Global Homeschool Conference in Russia. So it's always smart, if you're going to go to Russia or any other foreign country, to sort of read up on what are the cultural yays and nays. Well, in Russia, you do not smile to strangers. because they think that you're really super weird if, like you're drunk or something. If
I
you're
would
smiling.
never make it there.
I didn't realize. I mean, I don't think you realize, especially if it's just normative for you, how much you smile at strangers. And I kept finding myself smiling at these people, and they're just deadpan back at me. And I was just like, I
thought you were insane.
And you're just like, oh my goodness. But it was so sad to see such a mass of people without hope.
Yes.
They didn't fundamentally have the joy of the Lord. The most joyful people that I know, one of them was Davis's grandmother, Nani. She just was a joyful person. And she had reasons, a list longer than she was tall of reasons to lean into despair, but she chose joy. I want to be a person who chooses to focus on the joy of the Lord, not to be defined about my circumstances, but chooses to focus on that and smile. So our last thing that you didn't think we were ever going to get to, I really believe when we do these things, when we live in these 6 things, when we're staying focused, when we're staying home, when we're saying no, we're setting limits, right? When we're starting slow, when we're doing all these different things, I really believe not only do we have sanity, but we can sleep. Sleep well. When I first started being a mom and my pursuit of doing it all and being superwoman, right? And having everything perfect, I really viewed sleep as a waste of time. And actually resented having to sleep because there were things I wanted to do and sleep was just getting in the way. And it's just a completely wrong way to look at the gift that God has given us of rest. Sleep is one of the primary things that separates us from God. God never slumbers or sleeps, but he allows us to sleep. And it is something that we need. He doesn't need it. He's the night watchman, right? He watches over us while we slumber and sleep. He gives it to us. We require sleep. And if we live in an insane, chaotic life where we're chasing after the wind, chasing our tail, sleep often eludes us, right? Because we're worrying about things. Our mind is spinning. We have regrets. We were short. We yelled. We did. Look, we're going to do those things. But when we're choosing to rest in God, we're going to be able to really sleep well because we're going to be able to give it to him. I just want to say to all the moms out there, look, you're not going to do this perfectly. But the good news is you have a perfect Heavenly Father who doesn't waste anything and who's going to take it all of your mistakes, all of your missteps, all of the things that you wish you'd done right the first time. And he's going to teach you and he's going to grow you and he's going to redeem it all for his glorious purpose.
Amen.
There is such a thing as sanity in home education.
Yes.
And that's my thing.
I love it. I love it. And we have to be intentional about it. That's what I'm learning more and more is that it's all possible. Right. I mean, when we seek the Lord, it's possible to do what he's called us to do, but we have to be intentional about things.
Right.
We can't expect it to just magically happen.
Right.
And work itself out and get up every morning whenever we feel like getting up and just go about our day however we feel like going about our day and just do the next thing that comes. We have to be intentional about everything that we do. And there can be times in our day, of course, where we just have free time. That's always important too.
But it's intentional free time.
Right.
It's not ongoing. Random,
right?
We don't serve a random God, and we're not called to randomness. We're called to order.
Yes.
And so, even if we have a period of time in which we don't have anything planned, we plan to not to have anything planned. I mean, it's a very different thing. And again, I want to encourage the moms who are out there and who are listening, get together with some other moms and intentionally take time to talk about what the Lord is showing you and teaching you. Look at this list of 7 things that we just went over and consider where's your weak point and where's your strength and pray to God about it and watch for him to do amazing things. One of the things that I love about home education is all the things that God has taught me about himself, and all of this, all the things he's revealed to me about me that he's working on. I'm so grateful. And that's why I think I'm so passionate about it, is I want that for other people. I want other moms to get to see God in such a profoundly personal way. Look, for most of my life, God was God in the heavens, gray beard guy. I could count on him. He was there. He listened to my prayers. He answered a few. That was my position, right? And I felt like I was saved, but it was just sort of a passive kind of thing. I have seen God do things for me and my kids and my family so personally, I could not ever deny his existence.
Yeah.
That's what I want for people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a glorious place to be when you need him so desperately, and he shows up in amazing ways.
Yeah. Yep. He is a faithful, faithful father.
He is.
So I'm going to run through them really quickly again.
Okay.
So we've got the first one is must seek God, Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. The second one is serve others. The third one is stay focused on God, being present with our kids and staying focused on God. Number 4 is say no. Number 5 is stay home. 6 is start laughing and smiling. And number 7 is sleep well.
Yes, ma'am.
Did I get them all? Yay. Do I pass the test?
You did great. You passed the test, the quiz. You can at least repeat them. Now we have to do them.
Now we have to do them. So
we can do them with the strength of the Lord. And that's what we have to remember. We can't do any of these things on our own. We can't. We're not wired that way. But with the help of the Lord and seeking him, and like Yvette said, being intentional to go before the Lord on these things, we can. And then we can not only just stay sane, we can thrive, we can flourish as women of God and as moms, homeschool moms, and as wives. So, I mean, that's the beauty of the whole thing. It's possible.
Yep. It absolutely is. So Rachel, thank you for your encouragement so much.
Thank you
are such a blessing. You guys, if you have questions, are you able to stay on for a few minutes, Rachel, to answer any questions?
I can.
Okay.
Yeah, if I keep off the internet.
Okay. So
and can I just say really quick before we go?
Yeah.
We have also, Rachel, we did a marriage one with Rachel. Golly, like maybe a year. It was a long time ago.
No, it wasn't a year ago.
It wasn't?
Abby, it was only like 5 or 6 months ago, maybe.
Really?
I don't even know. The last 3 months has seemed like a year.
That's true. I don't even know what year is it. But we did, and we'll link to that because it was so just to be able to stay sane as a homeschool mom. I really think one of the important things is always seek God first, like we said, but how important it is to put your marriage, to make your marriage important and to make that a very intentional focal point in your home. And so we did an amazing one with Rachel where she just encouraged marriage and our role in marriage and just the beauty of marriage and how that is kind of the foundation of all of what we do as a homeschool mom. So go back and listen to that one too. It's incredibly encouraging.
Yeah, it is so good. And you guys pop up your questions if you've got them right now. But yes, so Rachel, we did that one on marriage, but then you also were part of the Homegrown Generation Family Expo, which, by the way, you guys can still sign up for that. People are still asking us about that and still signing up for it, which is amazing. If you sign up, you can still go back and watch all of the sessions. But Rachel, yours was on that child. You talked about that child. And you had people in tears, not funny tears. Convicting tears. And it was so good of all of our sessions, which they were all amazing, but that was one of the ones that really
resonated.
It resonated with people and it just moved in the hearts of so many people. And so if you guys have not watched that one, I think I'm right when I say that you can actually watch that one for free. We've actually put out, I believe it's 9 of the sessions for free. So including Abby's on why homeschool, getting to the heart of homeschooling.
Okay.
And Rachel, I'm almost 100% certain that yours is one of the free ones on there that people can actually watch. So even if people are not registered, it was so good that we wanted people to just hear it and be blessed by it. So people can go back and watch that again. So homegrowngeneration.com and you can sign up to watch that. So and real quick, I was going to say, if we don't have any questions, I know I see Malia on here. Hi, Malia. She's a good friend of mine, and she's talking about balance. And she says, I'm good at being home. So you were talking about stay home if you homeschool.
Right.
She's good at being home and not connecting with other people. And so she's saying there needs to be balance there, which is true. And I think I see that a lot depending on the personality of mom. If you're a mom who is a total introvert, it's easy to stay home all the time and you find your joy in that. But then oftentimes those moms miss out on the fellowship of of community and community. And Rachel, I know you well enough to know that community is important as well. And so, being part of it, maybe it's part of a co-op, maybe it's just going out once a week and meeting friends at the park, or being involved in church activities, or whatever that looks like for your family. It is important to have connection with other people and to be as intentional about that. It's just that you have to know where that balance is, to where you're not so busy outside of the home, and at the same time, busy enough that you're still having fellowship.
Yeah. And be in tune with what your kids, I think sometimes as homeschool moms, we're like, well, I could be home all day, every day. I mean, that's me. I could never leave my house and I'd be happy as a clam. But we can be in tune with what our kids need to. Or moms who are so extroverted, they need to be out all the time and they're wearing their kids out. So we need to, and that goes back to what you said, serve others. We need to also be in tune to our children so we can serve their needs.
Yes.
And I think all of that comes just in the first point, just seeking God. Because I know that there have been times when it was a lot easier to sign up for a lot of activities than to deal with that sibling rivalry or those character qualities. Because I thought, we've been trying to deal with that character quality, and I'm frankly just tired of trying to deal with it. And it'd be more fun just to get out of the house, right? Let somebody else handle it. And, when you take those kind of things before the Lord or to your husband, often it becomes clear, no, we really do need to stay home right now and figure this out or deal with this.
Yes.
So it's both and really, I wonder if maybe the most important character quality for a mom is discernment, because you're just constantly, okay, who's telling the truth, right? You've got two stories. Who's telling the truth? What do we need to do about this? Should we do this? Should we not do that? So it's just constantly going before the Lord and saying, please give me direction, give me confidence, give me peace about this. Show me what it is that you need to do. And then taking the next right step. You can't say, I'm all about getting on your knees and praying with God, but sooner or later you need to get up and move forward. So it's both and.
Good.
So.
Good.
Here's a question from Kristen. Hi, Kristen. She is saying she has a question about keeping focus. Do you have any suggestions for balancing intake of social media? I find it's particularly difficult in the current climate. I find myself glued to my phone way more than I'd like. So, Kristen, are you asking about balance of intake of social media for yourself or for your children? It sounds like for yourself, since you're saying that you find yourself glued to your phone, or maybe both you and your kids, because if you're glued to your phone, they're likely glued to their tablets or phones, or maybe the TV or something like that. So, Rachel, can you see the comments, Rachel?
I cannot, but that's okay. I'm happy.
If you click on comments on the top.
Where it says comments?
Where it says comments. Yep. And then scroll down to the bottom. And you can see them.
I'm not quite as blonde as I had to be. Okay.
So she says for herself.
So no, for me, I am grateful that I was not raising my kids in the proliferation of social media. But I will also say that I know myself well enough to know I cannot be on it a lot. I limit my time very strictly. If I'm on, so Facebook specifically, if I'm on 5 minutes a day, I'm exaggerating. I have office hours on Thursday for 2 hours. I am on for those 2 hours, but I'm really not on. And the reason I'm not on is it's not good for me.
Yeah.
It's not good for me emotionally. It's not good for me. It brings out my sinful nature in a way that I'm aware of. And so I just strictly limit myself. It brings out my competitiveness, and I just don't do well with it. So I'm not on. I appreciate the benefits of it, but I'm not on. Pinterest, I only allow myself to be on once a week for an hour. Oh. So I pretty severely limit myself just because I know myself well enough to know that it's just not good for me. And it doesn't seem to matter how much prayer I put over Facebook. It's just not good for me. Yeah. So I limit myself. I usually, if I'm on, I'll set a timer on my microwave, which means I have to get up to turn it off.
Yeah.
So that also helps me actually get off of it. because the scrolling endlessly is something that any of us can do. But and I've read a few books on it too, which probably helps. So like iGen or Be the Mommy Please, or Be the Parent Please is a book that I would recommend for people to read, and it talks about social media, especially when it comes to kids, but also as moms. So I think that that's also helped me with that.
Yeah.
That's good.
There's another book that is a good book. It's not a homeschool book in any way, but it's called
that one's not
Hands-Free.
either.
Okay. Yeah. This one, I read it years ago, called Hands-Free Mama. And that's a really good book as well. And that one was really convicting. One of the things, two things, Kristen, is one, it is just straight up self-control. You have to have self-control with it. But also take stuff off your phone. Like I do not have Facebook on my phone because when I'm, like when I lay down at night and I am going to bed, I want to just kind of shut off my brain. And so that was when I would find myself flipping through Facebook, and then I would go to bed stressed out about stuff because I'm seeing all these posts. And this was even before COVID, and I was like, I cannot do this. So I don't have an Instagram account. Actually, technically, I think I do, but I don't do Instagram or Twitter or any of those things. I don't have any social media on my phone at all. And so that is helpful because then I have to be in front of my computer to do it, and I'm not in front of my computer all that much. So, but it's just a self-control issue, and do things like Rachel said, set timers, ask your kids to hold you accountable, ask your husband to hold you accountable, ask a friend to hold you accountable. Having accountability for things like that, I think, is really helpful. And your kids will tell you.
Can you set timer? I mean, I don't know, you guys can figure this out, but maybe you can set a timer and it will show you how much time you spent on it. And that could bring you to your knees real quick if you're like, I just spent 7 hours on social media this week.
I know the iPhone can do that. It can give you
an update.
An update of how.
Our rule is you don't get on until you spend time with the Lord. I feel very convicted. If I spend more time on social media than I do with the King of Kings who directs my life, we have a problem, And it's a huge distraction from the Lord. It's not. I mean, so I think you're right, Yvette. Self-control, and not that it's wrong, or it can be used for good.
Sure,
but it is all self-control and knowing. I like what Rachel said. Knowing yourself, and is it building you up? Is it tearing you down? Is it bringing things out in you that you don't like? Is it making you think things of other people?
Yeah. The other thing too, when everybody was home, when we had all the kids home, I had a rule. We usually had some sort of classical music playing in the background. Just to have something, sort of like a sort of white noise, because there was just I found that it had a calming effect with that many people trying to do different things. So we had that going on, but I had a rule that no one could play lyrical music until after 3. And now that applies to the internet. Nobody can get on until after 3. And so, between being kicked out of the house about 2, because I've had that rule for years too, that everybody goes out at 2. You're not finished. Sorry, you can come back in, but you need to go run around and get some fresh air. But they can't get on until 3. So that's pretty limiting too. And the other thing is we don't have any internet or computers in any closed spaces. They have to be in public spaces.
Yes.
So where everybody can see. It's just automatic accountability, right? And then
that's just wisdom.
Yeah, that's just wisdom. Nobody takes it to their bedroom. Nobody, that just doesn't work. And so I've just had to do that for me and my own mental sanity, because I really do believe, for all of its good, I think that there's a lot of bad. So I just have to guard myself.
Yes. So, and we all do. Yeah, for sure. So, anyway.
Good question.
Good question. Thank you, Kristen, for that. And yes, Malia, I see your comment. It's all about setting priorities. What is the priority at the moment, or for the day, week, etc.? Stay home to deal with character issues, but don't feel like you can't leave your home. So,
right.
Yes. And then Shelley says, yes, you're preparing kids to be in the world on their own someday with a good foundation. So, yes. Good stuff. But thank
Very
you guys.
good.
Thank you for interacting too. I always love seeing people's comments and questions.
Yeah.
And Shelley, I think you were saying you would like to see the session with Rachael. Again, go to homegrowngeneration.com, and I believe you can sign up right on the front page. I think it will even actually like pop up a thing to like sign up for the mailing list or newsletter.
It's not hard to find.
Yeah. And then you'll have access to those 9 free sessions, or you can sign up for the entire conference, which is $20. And I'm pretty sure you still get the swag bag, which has all kinds of amazing.
And you can listen to the Todd Wilson about the smiling homeschooler, because it'll talk all about smiling.
He is amazing.
Yes. You know what's so funny is during that conference, within that week, Todd Wilson talked about smiling. Andrew Pudawa talked about smiling.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
And then Kurt Cameron and I talked about smiling too. And I was laughing because we were all talking about smiling. And I was like, I said, it's so funny because the theme song to Growing Pains was "Show Me That Smile Again. Don't waste another minute on you crying."
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so weird that I don't know. It was like the whole week was about smiling.
Well, and isn't it funny? They were all the men. So that should tell us that these men are saying, hey, moms, hey, wives, hey, women.
Yeah.
Lighten up and smile a little, like they're noticing it.
Yes. Yes. So we did talk a lot about smiling. Lots of smiling going on. Smile till your cheeks hurt.
That's right.
It's a good thing. So thank you guys for watching tonight and for being with us. We are so grateful for you. And just let us know how we can continue to serve you. If there are certain guests that you would like to have on the podcast, let us know. We always want to serve you best. So, and sometimes people often ask me, they think that I know everybody in the homeschool world or have heard every speaker. And they're like, well, haven't you heard of so-and-so? I'm like, nope. Or maybe I've heard of their name, but I've never heard them speak or had them on the podcast. And so if there are people like that, please feel free to send us an email at podcast@schoolhouserocked.com. And then also you can, we just sent out a form. We need to put the form somewhere, but if you send me an email at podcast@schoolhouserocked.com, let us know questions, because Abby and I are doing Q&A every several weeks. Now we're going to do an episode, which is just Q&A. And so that's a very exciting thing. We've got one done. We're getting ready to record another one and just answering your questions about homeschooling. So let us know if you have questions. We're here to serve you and answer your questions. If we don't know the answers, we will make them up, because that's what we do.
Or you'll smile, or you'll laugh.
Or we'll just smile at you.
Right. We'll just sit here and smile. So thank you. All right. Have a good rest of your night, you guys, and we will see you back here next week. Bye.